All right, guys. Emergency press conference time here on Get in the Hole. I've not done this in a long time. Kyle Bennett, Ben Pirro, Steve McAvoy here. Of course, the story and the reason why we're here is Jon Rahm. For those of you who have been living under a rock at the bottom of the Bikini Bottom forever, Jon Rahm, $600 million to join LIV Golf. On top of that, will own his own team. We'll have new teammates that he's currently recruiting. Callaway might get a minority stake in the team, which also would include Travis Matthew, their power line. And guys, I've been thinking this for about 12 hours when I first heard this from Flushing It when they had reported it like a couple days ago. And now it's finally come true. In his interview with Brett Baer, he had mentioned that he said a lot of things. He said that he liked the team aspect, which Ben, you can clearly tell us that even though it's a golf may have team aspects to it, like the Ryder Cup, it's an individualized sport, and no team format will ever matter in reality outside of the Ryder Cup. He mentioned the idea of the money and that it's generational wealth, and as a family man, that mattered to him. He mentioned the format, and he mentioned the idea of a 54-hole event with a shotgun start. And while he didn't comment on much, I think one thing remained true in all of this, and this is where we'll segue. The idea that Jon Rahm jumps to LIV Golf a year after saying that he vehemently was against LIV, hated the format, hated the idea, didn't like the idea of blood money, has finally solidified one thing in my mind, and it's that the PGA Tour is an absolute shambles. I think, and this is where we'll start, the PGA Tour knows they're losing all their money trying to give that to their players to try and keep them from jumping to LIV. The merger or alleged merger that happened on June 6th was basically a move to get money from the PIF in order to get them above water and not to absolutely go broke. Players are completely divided on the line. According to reports, Patrick Cantlay runs the players-only meetings now. The room's in shambles. It's a complete halfway divide. Some are pro-PIF, some are pro-private investment. Whichever other side they go, some might jump ship, or for that matter, maybe a whole half of the PGA Tour might jump to LIV if they don't get what they want. And on top of all of this, Jay Monahan is trying to push this deadline of December 30th with no guarantee that a merger happens, with no guarantee an antitrust suit follows with the government, and no guarantee that anything will happen. There is now a clear schism between LIV and the PGA Tour, and it's kind of been grayed out for the last 3 months ever since this agreement occurred in June. It's finally definitive, and Jon Rahm jumping, I think, tells us one thing. The tour's in shambles, and he got out before it completely crumbled, before the $600 million that he got was completely gone. He now has the opportunity to get his money, watch the PGA Tour crumble, and still try and get his cake and eat it too. He wants to keep all three of his tour cards for LIV, the DP World Tour, and the PGA Tour. First time anybody's ever said that, with the exception of Taylor Gooch. His whole thing is a different story. And yeah, that's kind of where we start. Guys, weigh in. I'm like mind blown by everything that has happened in the last 24 hours. Ben, we'll start with you. From the pro's perspective and from the guy who has the background in team golf, do you think Rahm is being genuine in his interview with Brett Baer today on Fox News, or did it seem a little bit puppety? Where do you kind of stand on all this?
I mean, look, at the end of the day, I'm not gonna sit here and jump to conclusions on what I think Jon Rahm. I'm not gonna inside Jon Rahm's head, because only Jon Rahm knows his reasoning. The bottom line is that, and you said it very well, he's getting paid $600 million. His main sponsor, Callaway, is going to sponsor his team. He is he's a hot commodity for LIV now, because he is the type of guy who is not only in his prime, but also very well respected by his peers in the PGA Tour. He's the kind of guy that's going to say, hey, it's good. Come here. Come play with us. He in my opinion, this whole thing about how I don't like the team format, I don't like this, I don't like that, I'm perfectly happy with where I am on the PGA Tour, everything that he's been saying the past, literally, 6 months and a day. This was like 6 months ago, right?
Yeah.
The merger was supposed to happen, right? I truly believe that it was all just a negotiation tactic, because he's sitting there and he's saying this, I don't like this, I don't like this, I don't like this. And then LIV is just like, well, he's really good. And if this is what he wants, we're going to have to up our asking price. We're going to have to up our price. Or he's actually upping his price technically. We're going to have to offer him more money. And we will consider format changes. And I do believe him when he says that he doesn't like the format.
If we lose Ben because of his freaking Wi-Fi, man, I swear to God. It's like death taxes and losing Ben on stream. The Wi-Fi in Florida must be horrible. On the off chance we lose him, KB, you obviously have knowledge of former mergers and schisms in the past, obviously with the MLL and PLL. One point quick on Rahm that I think is really prominent and important to discuss is that, again, the idea of Rahm jumping, and Ben was alluding to this, as someone who's well respected and someone who's well known on tour and has a very prominent voice in the future of the league. What's fascinating is, like, when Cameron Smith jumped at the end of last season following his Open Championship, I thought it was going to be a huge deal. In reality, Cameron Smith is a very much quiet, little lesser talked about player than Jon Rahm is. And again, I thought the Cam Smith move was going to be instrumental for the future. The Rahm move is going to be even greater so, because again, Cameron Smith hasn't done much in order to rally LIV as a group. He kind of went and sort of faded into oblivion almost. Also, it doesn't help the performance didn't necessarily match the hype coming in. But Jon Rahm is going to be able to jump in immediately and show that he is not only the best player in the world, which you could very well argue he's top 3 right now, that he is better than Scotty Scheffler and Rory McIlroy. But on top of that, that LIV Golf is serious. And again, if he gets more guys who might jump, Tony Finau's name has been floated out. Xander Schauffele's name has been floated out. Hideki Matsuyama's was 6 months ago. If he rolls out a team like this, and then you're going against the team of Brooks Koepka and Taylor Gooch, who was the #1 player on LIV last year, DJ, Harold Varner, and Patrick Reed, Bryson DeChambeau and Paul Casey. These are really strong teams of 2 or 3 on a roster that you now kind of have 4 legitimate teams. Not only that, you also have Joaquin Niemann and Mito Pereira on another, and some other good mid-tier golfers on the rest. I think LIV is really churning, and if they can get 2 or 3 big names and possibly flip the script on current major winners over the last 5 years, you got to realize right now there are 7 major winners over the since 2020 on LIV, as opposed to 8 on the PGA Tour. If that number flips, we got a problem. Well, but the PGA Tour's got a problem.
Yeah, when it comes from what I know from past mergers, obviously my soiree is with Lacrosse, and I dove into the Lacrosse merger right when it happened, because that's when Outside the Box started, was the first year of the PLL, and obviously very different circumstances. I want that to be known at the forefront too. Like, the Rabel brothers are not the Saudi investment fund whatsoever. The Rabel brothers are friends of our network and are phenomenal human beings who do a lot of great work for not only Lacrosse but the sports world in general. But it was the creation of the PLL and then the merger of Major League Lacrosse and the Premier Lacrosse League was one of those like sports mergers that this one could potentially head towards, where the new league ended up winning. In other past mergers, all the other upstart new type of leagues never ended up winning in the end. Look at in the history of sports, that never happened until really the PLL and the MLL. And now it feels like it's heading that way with the PGA Tour and with LIV. To what extent, who knows? But Jon Rahm feels like the equivalent to the merger happening with Lacrosse that was Lyle Thompson. Lyle Thompson, arguably regarded as the best lacrosse player on the planet. He was in Major League Lacrosse for a few years of the PLL's initial existence. The merger, effectively, and this is in a documentary that's on Hulu and ESPN Plus called Fate of a Sport, the merger was effectively the PLL bought out the MLL to bring Lyle Thompson to the PLL. It feels like the Saudi investment fund, the PIF, is getting their Lyle Thompson in Jon Rahm, giving him the bag, giving him what he wants, listening to the changes he wants, so that they can come to a collective potential merger with the PGA Tour, with the deadline quickly approaching of December 31st. And I saw this tweet tonight before we decided to do radio live here from No Laying Up. And it's a nice long one because they're verified on the tweet machine. So buckle up. This makes a shit ton of sense to me, and it makes everything kind of churn a little bit more forward. So they tweeted, so much of the professional golf world just doesn't make sense. Bullet point 1, it doesn't make sense to watch 18 minutes of commercials per hour in a PGA Tour event. It doesn't make sense for LIV to pay guys hundreds of millions of dollars when no one is watching the events. It doesn't make sense for PGA Tour purses to keep going up when ratings essentially aren't changing. It doesn't make sense that the mules make as much money as they do compared to the value they provide. It doesn't make sense to be talking FedEx Cup points as the Titanic is sinking. And most importantly, it doesn't make sense for a niche sport to be divided into two warring tours. Next bullet point. Professional golf needs an enormous reset, and Rahm signing with LIV, quotes, may be what accelerates the path towards reunification of the sport at the professional level. PIF have played this well, using their astronomical resources to drown out the tour, but they're still going to want an actual deal done, as a fractured golf world can't be their end game. Whatever the final terms are that are left to be negotiated, they're likely going to get their way. Next bullet point. Not painting Rahm as the hero here, but he truly may have, parentheses, purposefully or accidentally, played this thing perfectly. He's obviously going directly against several of his own very clear declarations, but maybe he really is just that cold-blooded, ? Next bullet point. He's going to make a ton of money from PIF, undoubtedly less than the astronomical amounts reported, but still likely in the 9 figures, and it's probably going to tip the scales on wherever Tour PIF PE negotiations currently stand. Next bullet point. It can't be an accident that this signing is happening as bids are coming in from PE groups and as the December 31st deadline approaches. Maybe I'm being overly optimistic here, but I can see a world where today's news is actually a good thing for the sport overall, and we can welcome common sense back into professional golf. It's going to be a lengthy and messy process. There's going to be a lot more bitching about money, but here's to hoping it ends with a product that golf fans will want to watch. I'll believe it when I see it, followed with the iconic Tennessee Texas Tech meme of the guy with his hand over his head like this.
Ben, we cut you off. Jump in.
You know, I've had the opportunity to meet a lot of very successful people, and very successful people generally have a lot of money. People with a lot of money don't fuck around, and they're willing to spend it endlessly to get what they want. That is just a fact. Look at Steve Ballmer. He's willing to spend a shitload of money to get the best team on the court. Look at Steve Cohen. Same fucking thing. Look at Jerry Jones. Even though he's a fucking lunatic. Same fucking thing. You know, the only difference between those three guys and the PIF is that the PIF has unlimited funds.
Did we lose him again?
I think the PIF might have got his ass.
All right. Well, the PIF it isn't the KGB.
It's true.
But yeah, and hopefully Ben comes back. the PIF, and to your point, has done something that, and again, they played this perfectly, honestly. They played this. The idea of the shotgun start in 54 holes was polarizing. Got people talking. Didn't get them OWGR points. They filed a complaint. They tried to get it worked out. It never happened. They got it to the point that people started to question the credibility of the official world golf rankings, to the point that even us on this show were like, you know what? Is the OWGR legit? Like, they literally got us to question the OWGR, have worked themselves into a situation, and again, played it perfectly, to leverage themselves and get their savior. And like I said, and I totally agree with no laying up. Jon Rahm jumped, contradicting his points. I still think he's genuine about it. But at the end of the day, he did what the common sense move is. Take the money before it's gone.
Which is what everybody said about the first go round of all the LIV golfers that jumped. It's like, go take the money before the well dries up. Clearly the well hasn't dried up for LIV, and they're sticking around.
But the first go around is different, though, because when you looked at the older cast of guys, and I've been saying this forever, Ian Poulter, Lee Westwood, Graham McDowell, and the like, they were already well past their prime and almost out of contention to compete every single week on tour. There was very few events where you can go in and say, all right, Ian Poulter can win this event, comparatively to Scotty Scheffler, Jon Rahm, Rory McIlroy,
well, I think we were saying it more about like the Koepkas, the Bryson DeChambeaus,
and of course,
guys like
those
that.
Guys, obviously, it made sense to jump at the $300 million because at some point it might dry up. I think it's fascinating, though, that, and again, Jon Rahm and Harold Varner are really the only ones to really come out and say this. It's about the money. It's about life-changing money, and I give them a lot of respect for that. I still don't respect anybody else on LIV who took the money and are saying that, oh, it wasn't about the money, it was about the team aspect. Get the fuck out of here.
Well, they can't. No, they're probably not supposed to say that it was about the money. Like,
probably not.
They're probably being told, like, they're going to ask you why you did this. You can't just say it was because of the money, because you have to make this seem as appealing as possible to your peers so we can get them. That doesn't make them like disingenuous. It's just
That's true.
They're being fed. They're probably being told what to say.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So I mean, like, it's one thing to say, hey, look, it was an opportunity I couldn't pass up. You're not necessarily saying it's about the money there. It's a great opportunity.
You're implying it, yeah.
But and then
And there's been very few guys that have openly come out and said, like, oh, I did this for the money. Because it felt like that's something that, like, they were told to dance around.
Dustin Johnson is the only one that I have heard say, he said it on Full Swing. He said, they're going to pay you more money to work less. And like the way his brain works is just so basic. Like, it really is. And but it's just like, that's just who he is. He's really like the only one. And you'd have to be like a complete moron to sit there and be like, they didn't go to LIV for them just because of the money. Yes, they did. Are you kidding me? For sure they did. It's like I almost feel like I've been hearing these rumblings about people who are involved with college football, that college football should separate from the NCAA, because I think the NCAA is just a big sham, and I think college football will be just fine without the NCAA. It's not like basketball where they have the tournament. All the bowl games are pretty much independent, I believe. Same with the national championship, right? Well, I feel like the PGA Tour is becoming the NCAA in a way. It's just this big sham. It's poorly run. The NCAA fed off of student athletes for decades and decades and decades and decades, and the PGA Tour has done the same thing. They screwed over players for years. It's a fact. I have several sources that have told me the PGA Tour keeps 76% of their profits.
Makes sense.
The players are the fucking commodity. How does that make any sense? Does that make sense to you, Steven?
No, and the players haven't gotten anything either when LIV's paying for caddy fees, hotel fees, travel, and so on.
KB, does that make sense to you?
Not at all, and it's very
No,
much
it
like
doesn't.
why Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, and sure, it's not to the success levels that they wanted in year one just yet, but it's why The Rock bought the XFL. Because Dwayne "The Rock"
Exactly.
Johnson got fucked over by the NCAA when he was playing football at Miami, and his main goal in life, no matter what you want to dice it up to be, The Rock wants to put an end to the NCAA.
1000%. The NCAA, it's full of a bunch of fucking crooks who don't give a shit about the kids. They don't give a shit about the players. They don't give a shit about their health. They give a shit about the bottom line. And that's exactly what the PGA Tour cared about. Meanwhile, their brains were too fucking dense to realize the players are the commodity. The players are the ones in a niche sport that isn't even that popular. Yes, I get it. Golf is growing in popularity. It's not that popular, okay? I'm a professional golfer. I could give a shit about who's winning on Sunday. I could care less, unless it's me. That's it.
There you go.
I mean, like, let's be honest. I'm not sitting down to watch the, I don't know, the Waste Management Phoenix Open. Like, I'm not doing that. That's why their viewership is so low. Yet the PGA Tour sat there and they're like, you know what? No, it's golf and it's about tradition.
It's the same marketing issue that baseball has had for years.
the
It's
same-
very similar.
But the thing is, baseball is finally fucking learning. Market players, actually, they're learning that it's okay to actually make it cool. It's okay to show emotion. It's okay to bat flip. You can fucking cartwheel. You can cartwheel around the bags after a grand slam for all they care now. The PGA Tour, they are so far behind everything. It is so embarrassing. And the fact that there's zero leadership, and I know I'm talking a lot. I'm almost done. I'm
Yeah, it's
sorry.
fine.
Pop off, Queen.
I don't know who the fuck is in charge right now. I would love to know. Is it Monahan? Clearly not. Is it Cantley? I hope not. Rory? I hope not as well. Jordan, you're supposed to be in charge of something, yet we haven't heard you say anything except that they were going to get rid of the PIP. I don't understand what's going on. I
Tom's
think,
probably recruiting Jordan Spieth as we speak.
as he should. He should be recruiting everyone.
Yeah,
because
honestly, at this point,
this is all the PGA Tour's fault. They thought they're like, this is about tradition. We don't pay our players.
The
Guess
Masters on CBS.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? The four
Full
tournaments that guys care about, the Masters, the Open, PGA Championship, and the US Open, aren't even PGA Tour events. They're independent majors, just like bowl games, just like the national championship. And that's where I'm going with
That's
this.
such a good comparison by you,
That
Ben,
is-
that like
that is
I
all
never
these-
even thought of.
Like, the guys are like, wait a minute, so I get to play in the four biggest events of the year, and I actually make way more money on top of that by playing less. Wait,
Yeah.
and you guys are going to cover my expenses? Oh, and you're gonna pay my caddy over $600,000? Yes, please. Give me a pen and tell me where to sign. You'd have to be a fool not to take it.
Ben brings up two really valid points, and actually, I have a alternative comparative to your NCAA point, which I think is probably even more applicable here. You're spot on with the idea that, and this goes back to even what No Laying Up said. How does it make sense that the majors, and just like consider the PGA Tour as an entity, right? You play to win majors, and no one cares about the playoffs. No one cares about anything on the PGA Tour except for the majors. And also, that's how you're measured by success. No one gives a fuck if you won 13 tour championships. If you won 13 majors, that's your trophy.
And not to cut you off,
Yeah.
you know what people said about Sergio for the longest time before he won the Masters, or Lee Westwood because he's never won a major? I mean, they best players to never win a major, and that's what they help. You could win 30 fucking PGA Tour events, but if you don't win a major, the media influences the public, and they make you feel like a total failure.
And golf's the only sport in the world. Think about it. The only sport, with the exception of like partial soccer, that you play an entire season and the final event doesn't fucking matter. The 4 events in once a month, It's kind of like fucking like domestic football cups, and then you play to the final. But even then, at least in soccer, the final entity is what matters. The thing is, and this goes to your comparison of the NCAA. I look at LIV and I see the world of NIL. The fact that the NCAA for decades has said amateurism is our calling card. You don't make money because you do it for the love of the game. And then NIL comes in and says, "Oh, Raising Cane's is going to give you $4 million fucking dollars to eat chicken fingers." And Jaden Daniels is like, "Where do I sign?
Where do we sign? Raising Cane's. We are open for negotiation."
Wait. Oh no, wait. I gotta turn this. The beauty of it is that NIL has made a significant dent in not only the NCAA's pockets, but also the idea that so many lawsuits have now come out against the NCAA for former players not being allowed to monetize their name, to the point that now there's a class action lawsuit that's kind of starting to get legs that might leave the NCAA bankrupt because they're going to owe money to generations of players for monetization. Matt Leinart is a part of the fucking class action lawsuit. Reggie Bush is in the lawsuit.
As he should.
These are names that are so significant that can garner millions on millions on millions. The NCAA doesn't have infinite money. NIL is infinite cash flow. LIV Golf is infinite cash flow. They will drown the NCAA just like how LIV Golf will drown the PGA Tour. Honestly, sooner than we think.
I have a new quote from Jon Rahm from
Here we go.
Golf. In joining LIV Golf, Jon Rahm says the move will allow him to help grow the game with a, quote, bigger audience.
You know, I think that's fascinating too. There really is no audience watching LIV. And Ben, to your point, golf ratings don't grow because golf struggles, like baseball, to market their players. When really all the marketing that is done for these players really comes through their club manufacturers and sponsors. Like Tiger Woods doesn't get dick from the PGA Tour, but his entire brand is Nike, or was actually now until he jumps. But different story for another day. Rory McIlroy is TaylorMade Nike. Like
I have a take on that. It's because it goes back to like what Ben was saying, where like they didn't care about the players. Like it's the bottom dollar. The PGA Tour has, for its entire existence, has treated the players like independent contractors because that's what they are.
Which in reality they are, but at the same time,
LIV though, on the other hand, with the whole team aspect and everything that they're doing, they're treating them like actual pro athletes, like the stars, like the commodity that they are. It's not the sport, it's the player. And that's the difference in marketing. And sure, does everything kind of come off in a cheesy way with LIV because of what the background is, of where the money's coming from? Sure. But what they're trying to do is turn the golfer into the commodity rather than the sport.
Which is amazing because it's just like the PLL, right? The PLL is by the players for the players. Granted, this is LIV and it's a different sort of entity that's manufacturing it. But think about the idea, right? The whole idea of again, making the player the commodity, giving them minority stakes in teams, having them have a say in things. And yes, you know what? You're right. LIV Golf is out there. It's almost uncomfortable to look at. It's very in your face, which golf has never really been, and they make their motto.
Which in year one of the PLL, that's how a lot of people felt too. It was like, what is this like?
And at the end of
marketing
the day,
in our face about this?
Golf,
and why are we over social?
Golf but louder. The motto of LIV makes complete sense. It's in your face, and it's giving you something that's brand new and a new way to think about it. And golf for the longest time has been so stuck on sign up for NBC Golf so you can watch coverage. I only just started to get golf coverage because John gave me his fucking Sling account. I haven't had access to the PGA Tour, and I'm fucking covering the sport.
And
I have not watched a single round of golf that is not on Twitter probably in my life.
And how minor it is. Look at what happened today when you posted on our Twitter account at Get in the Hole Pod the trade that happened in LIV Golf. One of the teams tweeted back. You wouldn't get a single iota of that from an official PGA Tour account, from an official PGA Tour tournament account. That's what's going to help change the game, is just the social interaction. I've seen that a ton with the PLL, with social media being in your fucking face all the goddamn time. It works, and it's smart. It's a tactic to bring in a younger audience that's not going to pay attention to what's going on behind the scenes with LIV. That never happens. To see that happen today, I was like, oh, okay, like I get what they're doing from this aspect. That's going to change the sport 100%. Ben,
Mr.
go ahead.
Piero in the back.
I have two things. The first thing kind of goes into what we're talking about right now.
Just make sure you get it out before the Wi-Fi cuts out.
Okay, yeah, thanks. Fuck you. Anyway, I believe part of the issue with how the PGA Tour markets their players is golf is such a stuck up. It goes back to the traditional, the traditional aspect. You're supposed to be gentlemen. You're supposed to not curse. It's bad to throw clubs. You're not supposed to show up your opponent. Like all this stuff. Meanwhile, Colin Cowherd, and I know, Steven, you don't like him, but one of my favorite tweets ever by him was when he said something like, I want at least, if I was a TV company, I would want at least 6 like profanity-laced tirades per round. Caught on camera, because that's what's interesting. Because I think golf is so boring to watch. It's the same old guys that say the same old bullshit. They talk really slow. They can't criticize everyone. Like, you can't sit there and say, wow, that was a really shitty shot. You can't, because then you get fired as an announcer. Like, I feel like, and I know a lot of that has to do with what you're allowed to say on radio, on TV. But if they took a page out of like the Pat McAfee show, perhaps, and how, like, you know how entertaining Pat McAfee shows is? All the shows are. All those guys are just hilarious, but they know a lot about sports. They have valid opinions. But they have a very colorful way of portraying those opinions. Mm-hmm. And I think if the PGA Tour, in how they like film golf and present it to the world, I feel like if they took a page or 6 at the Pat McAfee show or these other shows that are moving with the times, where it's okay to speak your mind regarding certain things, I think they could be a much more marketable presence in the world of sports. That's
what Cowherd did with the volume.
100%. I mean, Cowherd curses on there all the time. John Middlecoff curses all the time on 3 and Out. I've heard Nick Wright on What's Right with Nick Wright, Fox guy. I've heard him curse too. Like, it's okay. Like, everybody does it. Let's not like hide from it. Like, let's just be honest. Then this other thing, like, I don't mean to segue, but I find it so funny how instead of really pushing hard at this December 30th or December 31st deadline with LIV that Monahan has, he's looking into secondary options that are not nearly as lucrative. And I think that's like sitting there and you drive like a 2002 Toyota or something, and you have all this money, but you're just going to like trade it in for like another used car instead of having the opportunity to get like, I don't know, like a souped up Maserati or something. So, like, you're just, I feel like it's, and that probably wasn't a good analogy at all, but I feel like it's just such a lame meet in the middle that he's pulling. I think it's so lame. I think it's almost half-assed. I don't understand it. I really
so it's two-pronged. A, it's to avoid an antitrust suit, because if you solely partner up with LIV, it's still a monopoly. So if you can at least get a different private equity group, you can at least avoid some sort of sanctionality of that. But to your point, the idea of breaking tradition, you don't even need to curse to make things entertaining. The number one most trending video from the weekend, could you possibly imagine what it was? It was Pat McAfee on College Game Day chanting about the University of Georgia, and then turning around and, without cursing,
give me Alabama.
He's even saying, fuck you, I'm taking Alabama. That's entertainment. And again, look, Pat McAfee is terrific at his job. AJ Hawk, great at his job. That whole group is amazing. I think also like and this is more of a personal spite that I have on the journalism industry as a whole. The nepotism that's involved and the idea that you can include athletes on broadcast after they retire because they just know the sport is a very inconsequential move for you. But for the people who actually would give you presentation value and audience value and broadcast value, like me, Ben, KB, and the like, we're kind of stuck here having to put it on a forum that at least we can do what we want to do and we can curse and do our own thing. Which is why
you should subscribe to our YouTube channel.
But it would be way more entertaining if instead of Chris Collinsworth giving me action play-by-play, I have someone who's so different. You wonder why the match every single year gets great views is because Charles Barkley, he turns the needle. Like he moves people. You want to listen to what Charles Barkley has to say, largely because he's an idiot.
He's a knucklehead.
But at the end of the day, he presents something that's better than what Chris Collinsworth can give me, than what Tony Romo can give me. Greg Olson is actually doing that. He's providing you good commentary, strong commentary, while also being a little bit more comedic. It's not, these aren't things that are uncommon. We can have these. But at the end of the day, networks are so caught up in golf and the traditionality of everything.
It's also very much like how for years and say what you want about Joe Rogan one way or the other, like the fight companion thing that he does, where he has him and a bunch of his buddies that just sit around, shoot the shit while they have a UFC fight on and commentate on it while still talking about other stuff. Yeah. More people will tune into that. More people tune into the Manning cast than a traditional Monday Night Football game because it's entertainment.
Well, the traditional way of covering sports is dying. Like,
it's long dead.
It's been done. Like you see ESPN's numbers, they're just burning cash at this point. Like that's what you see these YouTube channels who they give it to you straight. There's no sugarcoating. Like not European. Urinating Tree. Do you guys know
Yeah.
He's actually spot on about pretty much everything because he just cites articles. There's no bullshit. He just gives you the facts, which is exactly what the fans want to hear.
What's really interesting to me, sorry to cut you off, but I had a thought. Like, you watch a football game, right, or a hockey game. You don't even really listen to the guys commentating the game in the background.
No.
Because at the end of the day, your eyes are painting the story. I don't need Al Michaels to tell me that Dak Prescott threw a 74-yard bomb to CeeDee Lamb. I watched him do it. I oohed and I awed. That's why radio is so great and why Vince Scully was so adorned was because he would literally tell you a story, paint it in front of your eyes, make you think that you were at the game, but also tell stories about guys. And he would make it more entertaining and enthusiastic. We need more of the alternate sort of cast because, and again, kind of like LIV, if you change that, it'll be more in your face. Imagine watching an NFL game and it's Pat McAfee talking shit with AJ Hawk the whole time.
Oh my God.
We've seen success from it for our own company.
We have.
And our F1 watch-alongs we've done for the NLL and the PLL on our YouTube channel alone, like,
yeah,
if you have the means to do it and you have just a small enough audience, you can do the same shit. We did it at a location for the fucking Masters last year. It's doable.
But you know what it is, though? It's the idea of it, and to the masses, it's in your face and it's uncomfortable. The Manning cast, at first, everyone casted doubts about it because they had largely technical issues. But I think it was, forget who it was per se, but they said, oh, the Manning cast sucks. There's no substance. The substance is them talking shit to each other as brothers.
Yeah.
And commentating on what's the quarterback thinking about and thinking about it from a literal standpoint. Yeah, it's in your face. Yeah, it's uncomfortable. But you know what? We learn to adjust. I don't need to have Ray Ferraro tell me what's going on behind the bench. The only successful jobs, honestly, in sports that really kind of give you a new insight, and even then, I forget Crystal Thompson, basically called it out. The sideline reporter really is the job that gives you all the information that you need, because they're the ones that are on the field. But even Chris Thompson said she used to lie about her sideline reports. That's the job.
That quote was taken out of context for what it was worth.
But that's the job that actually gives you substance. I don't need Al Michaels to tell me what's going on. I want someone to tell me just fun shit, shoot the shit, tell a story, and let me watch a game and hear something fun. That's what golf needs. And I love Jim Nantz, but Jim Nantz needs to change the way, or we need new people to change the way for him.
He's not what he was without Nick Faldo.
I agree.
I think Trevor Immelman, he just is not. No, he's not in the same galaxy. Calling a golf tournament as Nick Faldo.
And you know what though? Faldo was actually what we need, because Faldo wasn't afraid to get out of pocket and say dumb shit.
Oh my God, he I don't know if you guys remember this. He criticized Tiger Woods before the 2006 USO.
Yep.
It was at the 2006 Farmers. Tiger hit 5-iron. He was already winning by a million. But he fans this 5-iron out to the right. And Nick's his face is so open. He's just kind of ragging on the guy. Yeah. He really kind of was. And then I guess Tiger didn't like what he was saying. And then they ended up getting paired together in the first round of the Open Championship. And, Tiger went out there and did what Tiger used to do, which was just kick everybody's ass, and, including Nick's. But Nick is really one of the only guys in the game of golf who wasn't afraid to criticize players for something, for a shot that they hit, a decision that they made, whatever it is. And now, since he's retired, golf really misses that. But I think, all in all, the overall marketability of golf is for as popular as the sport is to play, especially for the younger generation.
Yeah.
You would think the viewership of tournaments would be higher, and it just isn't. It has a lot to do with how they market their players. It has a lot to do with how they call the golf tournaments, and LIV is not going to stop. David Feherty is one of the most entertaining people to listen to on TV. Are you guys frozen?
No.
Oh shit! I thought you guys were frozen. I was freaking out. Dave Feherty, one of the funniest guys to listen to call a golf tournament. Well, he calls them for LIV now, doesn't he?
Yes.
Exactly.
Now,
stop.
Albeit the overall production value, I personally don't like. I like the LIV broadcast. I haven't heard enough of the actual live commentary on it to give an opinion.
Look, it's okay, but I would not bet against LIV. Ability to secure TV rights through if it ever happens, their merger with the PGA Tour, so on and so forth.
The beauty though of what's happening, and again, I want to. Oh God. All right, so Nuclear Golf just threw out tweets. By the way, all of this stuff is it's coming to light. We learned about 2 hours ago before we even started this that Sports Illustrated reported that apparently the PIF put out a $1 billion equalization pool to guys who had rejected LIV contracts, $2 billion I think to guys who did defect, and apparently it's come to naught in the framework. According based on what Nuclear Golf says, PGA Tour has not tweeted since 12 p.m. Their only official response to the Rahm news seemed to be via Tiger Woods' Twitter account, which was a repost of the December 1 letter from player directors. According to Dan Rappaport, which he had mentioned earlier, the PGA Tour is in a state of chaos. Now, going to what Rappaport said, and I had mentioned this at the very beginning of the cast. He had said, let's find this here. He said the most sources say Patrick Cantlay is calling the shots of the PGA Tour. Jimmy Dunn and Ed Harley, who negotiated the June 6 agreement, haven't been involved in a negotiation since then. The Rahm move is a sign LIV at least prepping for a future with no deal. There's a sense of chaos at the PGA Tour right now. Players are very much divided about the future. Concerns about what a private equity fat trimming would mean for the entire pro golf ecosystem. some on the PIF, some don't. I had mentioned this at the very beginning of the show. Just the monumentality of Jon Rahm going. Is there a possibility that maybe even by the end of this year, depending on who winds up jumping with Jon Rahm, that the PGA Tour might just fold?
No.
Like how soon is it possible that the PGA Tour goes defunct, if it does?
It won't. I don't see it happening for a while, because push comes to shove, they'll just use one of those secondary investment options. That's truly what I believe. And I know, look, that would never make them fully successful. That would not make them nearly as financially successful as them joining with LIV, but it would, at a minimum, kind of save the tour, even though the credibility will be gone.
My brain from that nuclear golf tweet about growing the game for a bigger audience just immediately went to Jon Rahm is somehow in some sort of negotiation with LIV to help them secure some sort of broadcast rights deal.
Probably would make sense.
Maybe.
So here's the current outlook, and I think this is an important point to bring up. According to whatever it may be, the current lead in terms of the private equity group that would wind up jumping in would be Acorn Growth Companies, which is the only one of the 5, which I had mentioned in a tweet months ago, is the only one with no sports portfolio whatsoever. They specialize in airplane parts and like airliners, jets, and like military grade weaponry, which is fascinating. They only have about $3 billion of assets, with purse sizes growing, and Jon Rahm now making this jump and more guys going to go. The idea of LIV paying caddies and traveling fees, and for 130-man fields, purses are growing. They're going to keep on going. They're also now, PGA Tour is helping to fund the LPGA Tour's purses too. At some point, the $3 billion, either A, Acorns is going to say, no, we can't give you more money because they're basically going to burn themselves out. And B, if the PGA Tour isn't gaining any additional money from the TV contracts and all this stuff they already have, the only other real option, which has been floated around, is the idea of, with the TGL at least, was creating teams just like how LIV has it and allowing companies like an AT&T to get involved, which the PGA Tour has thought about. They also had they had an idea about 6 months ago to make a team-oriented like schedule, kind of like similar to the in-season NBA tournament, but make it team-based which works. Make it team-based for golf, which wouldn't be a horrible idea. You can get money from the AT&Ts and the Verizons and Goldmans of the world to organize and run a team. That could be your money option. But again, at the end of the day, LIV has unlimited funds, and they will just bury them. It's the Yankees in the 90s. It's LIV and the PIF and everybody else.
Now it's the Mets in the 2020s.
Don't say that to a Yankees fan who's convinced they're going to get Juan Soto, Yamamoto. They're going to get fucking David from next door. They're going to get everybody. And the Yankees are still going to only win 90 games and get bounced out of the first round
by the Astros.
Death, taxes, loses to the Astros.
Death, tax, and trash.
Or the Rays. Or the Rays.
But again, at the end of the day, this whole Rahm thing, and he kind of is, right, like the unsung anti-hero. Like, he's the first domino. And again, I thought Cam Smith was going to be it. Dustin Johnson, it made sense. Would have made sense.
It's truly like that meme of like the 3 guys lined up in the church, and then there's the sniper in the ceiling.
Yeah.
Well, here's the
Jon
thing.
Rahm's the sniper.
Well, here's the thing. When you look at the big names that LIV has signed, Bryson is. Someone's using a blender below me, and
Bryson's still a big name,
and it's 11:22 p.m. So what I was saying is, Bryson, yes, he's a big name, but everybody thinks he's like a fucking dork. You can't really have him be the face of LIV. Phil, for as historically amazing as he is as a professional golfer, is long past his prime.
Yeah.
Justin has zero fucking personality. So you can't make him the face of LIV. Who's he going to recruit? How are those conversations going to go? Probably nowhere. Like, who else is there? Cam Smith. Cam Smith doesn't really have like that alpha male presence that you would want.
Oh, there he goes.
Cam Smith heard him talking and said, "Fuck around and find out."
But no, but honestly, like he is right though. Like no one moves the needle. Oh, sorry, Ben's back. No one moves the needle like Jon Rahm. And
Yeah,
no,
I was gonna.
Yeah.
Like, so what I was saying is, I just got your thing, KB. Jon Rahm has a presence, and he has the marketability. He has the influence over other players. He has the relationships. He has relationships with current and former tour players. He's the guy that they wanted. Okay, he's in his prime. He's an alpha. He has a presence. He's really fucking good. And he relates really well to all those guys on the PGA Tour.
And on top of that,
yeah, how many guys have ever sat there and been like, I don't like Jon Rahm? I haven't heard one person say that they don't like Jon Rahm.
And not to mention too, like think about the people that have been leading the PGA Tour throughout this whole like fiasco. Like Tiger Woods, obviously, no one has anything bad to say about the GOAT. That like totally fine, but he's really only there in the background. He's kind of like the Queen in England. Like the Queen's just chilling out drinking tea.
He's not really doing much anymore.
Yeah,
he doesn't have the same pull.
Exactly. It's Parliament doing everything else.
If it was 15 years ago, it would be completely, and
instead, it's Rory McIlroy and Patrick Cantlay. Everybody has some opinion on the two of them, whether they like it or not. There's an opinion swirling about Patrick Cantlay. He's a sandbagger. He's an asshole on the course. He's slow. Whatever it may be. Rory McIlroy, you can go through a myriad of fucking things. Ben can probably give you a laundry list.
Giant baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, when you look at the guys that are going to go, Dustin Johnson had respect. Granted, he's a little bit older. I think Brooks Koepka, while he's an asshole, garnered some respect because he gamed where he had to.
Brooks has also come around because he's gotten the no matter what you want to say about it, he's gotten the part of my take audience behind him, and everybody thinks he's like the common man's golfer now.
And at the end of the day, Jon Rahm beats all of them.
And the other thing with Jon Rahm, from a marketability standpoint, of all the things Ben rattled off, he's a minority.
And you know what, too?
That's huge.
And that whole part is another fascinating bit. He says he wants to grow the game. If not just the game of golf, he wants to grow it in Spain. He wants to be, and he was even asked it by Brett Baer. He goes, "Do you think Seve would have agreed with your move?" And he said, "Well, I hope you would have supported me at the very least." He knows Seve Ballesteros probably would have said, "What are you doing?" The same way Jack Nicklaus is saying, "What are you doing?" The same way Arnold Palmer would have said it. But at the end of the day,
we're in a completely different world now.
I know. But what I'm saying is that he wants to be what Seve Ballesteros has been to the country of Spain in the golf game for 55, 60 years. Well, basically since he was born. Jon Rahm has played on Olympic teams in Spain from the age of 14. When he was at Arizona State, he played for every Olympic team for Spain. Every U18, every tournament represented Spain. European games, whatever it was. Went to Ryder Cups, he represented Spain. Went to every single international event and said, first and foremost, I'm a Spaniard. He's won the Spanish Open 3 times. And every single time he's cried and said, nothing brings me more joy than winning for the country of Spain. You know what? That right there, I don't think anybody else, particularly the Americans, let's be honest, would ever say that. No. I can honestly, you know what? I can even definitively tell you. You give me the top 10 internationals on tour, I'll even say it. Victor Hovland probably wouldn't say that. Cameron Smith probably wouldn't say that. Rory McIlroy sure as fuck wouldn't say that either. Jon Rahm he's a man's man. He's a gentleman. And like prominent to anything else, he is doing what is right for him. And I think that's the thing that we kind of all kind of get lost in this whole thing. You can argue and say he's a puppet. He's pathetic. He's doing it for the money. He's doing X, Y, and Z. At the end of the day, like, you almost can't be mad at him.
No.
Can't be mad at any of these guys.
You have to be a fool to be
No. You know what? When Cameron Smith jumped, people were mad. When
crazy.
Phil Mickelson jumped, people were mad. No. But to a degree, I understand it because it's the idea of you've been here for, particularly with like Phil and DJ and Patrick Reed. You've been here your entire lives. Now all of a sudden you're gonna quit on the PGA Tour for something new. Cameron Smith was a little bit different because he's younger, but Jon Rahm has given everything to the sport, and he's only 32 years old. 2-time major winner, has had a myriad of wins on all sorts of different courses.
Clutch.
He's a clutch player.
I think the other thing too with Jon Rahm, like, he flat out said like the money was a big part of it, where the other guys initially were dancing around that, whether they were told to do that or not. Who knows? Who knows if we'll ever know? But I think Jon Rahm just being genuine about his intentions made it so that nobody is truly mad at his decision.
Exactly. He's been honest and genuine in the entire process, and it's the first person, with the exception of Harold Varner, that's actually done something. And with a voice like his, that obviously it's immensely polarizing. But I don't think anybody on Twitter, for the first time ever, has said, oh, a guy jumping to LIV, fuck that guy. No.
I love Max Homa calling a shot and saying, what if Jon Rahm does his press conference in a LIV varsity jacket? And that's exactly what he did.
Someone tweeted out, if you wear a varsity jacket past the age of 18, we got a problem. I'm like, what the fuck wrong with that, bro?
I wear my Xavier varsity jacket all the time.
I wear my high school varsity jacket still. You kidding me?
My Letterman, baby. I look sick in that thing.
I earned that shit.
I did.
Yeah, bro. If you earn it, bro, rock it.
Oh, hell yeah. With my hair all done, I look sexy.
I gotta say, Jon Rahm looked pretty swaggy in a Letterman jacket.
He does, doesn't he? You know, so fucking dope.
So it's actually really funny. If you don't follow him, most certainly follow him. I'm going to give him a shameless shout out. Raymond Williams at Golf Projects tweeted out. He goes, you know, honestly, the LIV Letterman goes fucking hard.
It goes hard.
I'm like, bro, I literally went to the LIV shop and said, we're gonna get one of these.
That's fresh.
That thing's fresh. I want one. I also bought as a personal Christmas gift a $30 Bryson DeChambeau. It was a Bryson hat, but the S and the O is 58 for when he shot 58. So it's a sick shirt. I'll send it to you guys. But like the whole shirt was like Mr. 58. Their power lines are actually really cool. I give LIV a lot of credit. I don't see the PGA Tour giving out dope ass power lines.
And that's the thing with LIV too. Like, again, say what you want to say about their backing and everything. I know it's shitty, but like what they're doing to like bring the sport to the people and make these golfers the commodity rather than the sport and like trying to shove the sport down people's throats. They're trying to give the sport a personality that it doesn't have. And Ben talked about that earlier. Like, it's this boring old tradition that golf has been stuck in, and what LIV is trying to do from a marketing standpoint, from their social media teams to putting apparel out there to making it a team type of aspect and everything, it's making it so that it's a relatable thing. It's making it have a personality, and that's why it's working. Sure, the money behind it obviously helps a ton, but the overall like schematic and the idea and concept is working because it's giving a sport a personality that hasn't had a personality since Tiger Woods was in his heyday, and that was just one person. That wasn't a true sport personality. Everyone just wanted to be Tiger. This is giving it the NBA, the new age baseball kind of flair where like people are following along with players. Like, will it shock me like this upcoming season if on quote unquote golf Twitter, like we start seeing like those stan accounts that we see on NBA Twitter and on NFL Twitter and MLB Twitter, where it's like the stat muse face, and it's like, oh, I'm Rahm Muse, and I'm gonna tweet out stats about Jon Rahm and be an aggregate account for him and get my followers up tweeting about golf. Absolutely not, because that is what LIV is doing.
And also, not for nothing, and KB, you mentioned it, as someone who doesn't whose only real affiliation to golf is managing our
and I
overall,
casually pay attention to it because Sundays are fun.
Casually overseeing a company that happens to have a golf podcast, and you happen to help edit our shows. Even you mentioned it, LIV Golf is doing something that's really fucking cool, and they're trading players. They have a relegation pool. They're doing everything that
you have
every
fucking
pro sport
Big
has.
Cat coming out and playing with Brooks Koepka at the LIV Golf event in Chicago. That's what the sport needs. Inject these media personalities like the Barstools, like us, stuff like that into the sport. Put these common people in front of the camera with these LIV golfers who for years and years were on the PGA Tour and have this popularity factor behind them. You put them out there with these digital media companies and stuff like that, you're going to get eyeballs on it, and it's going to make more people want to follow your entity because you're bringing forward your favorite media personalities, your favorite golfers. The YouTube golf era is as fruitful as ever because of stuff like that.
It's the era of the creator. It's the idea that Callaway would rather pay good to sponsor them than some average Joe coming up on tour, like a Ben Pirro. No offense to you, Ben. But I'm just saying, as a name out there for the draw. But like you're saying, though, the idea that LIV is making trades, they're relegating players, there's a free agency pool. We've never seen this in golf, and it's because of the idea that they're individual contractors and they are independents and all this stuff. The team aspect, while it's tacky and golf is an
familiar to
sport,
people.
It's familiar, and I think just like the in-season tournament in the NBA, which for the first time I literally was sitting on the toilet and I'm wonder how the Knicks did against the Bucks. That right there is intrigue. You're automatically intrigued by what's happening. You make a team aspect in golf, and I've been a proponent for this forever, change or have more events that aren't stroke play, because I love the idea of having a more diverse schedule. And really, when you think about it, the only scramble events, with the exception of the Zurich Classic of New Orleans, which actually gives you points, is this week's Grant Thornton Invitational, which is a charity event. Those don't even matter for anything. If you make these events more diverse and you bring in a team aspect, while golf, yes, is individual by nature, if you can formulate a golf format that has teams and that can work, I think LIV is just tacky. I think if you could perfect it, though, and you can bring in the elements that LIV has, the trading, the relegation, the promotional Q school to get on to LIV.
Because you know what all of that does, guys? It gets
Markets.
people talking about the fucking sport. Look at today with the trade that happened. Everyone, why would you trade the number one player on the LIV Tour last year for Matthew Wolff? Everyone was fucking talking about it, though.
Everyone's talking about Taylor Gooch going to Smash. Dan Rappaport tweets about it and says, you're trading the top player. And Smash literally said he stiffs his waiters at his wedding. A fucking golf accounts for your tour just shat on one of the top 5 reporters in golf.
Who also happens to look like Sam Darnold.
Partially, yes.
Do you guys, KB, do you agree with that? Doesn't he?
But holy shit. Brooks Koepka's retweeting random people. You're literally creating prime news.
And then who got in the mix because of it? Oh, the guy that employs Dan Rappaport, Dave Portnoy of Barstool Sports.
More eyeballs, and the biggest eyeballs are all of a sudden locked in. PGA Tour just simply doesn't have it.
They don't.
And again, we're gonna bash Jay Monahan next week. We're gonna bash him the week after that. We do it every week. Well, the only way the PGA Tour survives is honestly if they like No Laying Up said. I'm always referring back to this hard reset, and you go to a new leadership group. You maybe fold and you give in to the PIF and you let them in and let LIV win, let LIV buy you out, because you're not going to have enough money at the end of the day in 3-4 years time as purses grow by $1.5 million every single year and the majors keep on growing and eventually more guys are going to jump ship. At the end of the day, I kind of want LIV to succeed. Not because I like LIV, I really still don't. And honestly, I don't have an opinion at this juncture. I just don't like the idea of the morality of money. But that's also flown so far out the window at this point. It's been over a year. We're kind of past all
you,
this.
You can't blame the players.
Yeah, no.
And we've said that from the jump.
I'm never going to blame the players. I did at first, but at the end of the day, like I would do the same fucking thing.
And it's like if you want to talk shit about a golf league, why don't you go complain about your local government first, whose pockets are also in with the Saudi investment?
I said that like this summer, and Steven was like,
"We've all said it."
But not for nothing, too. Like, everyone's sleeping with Saudi Arabia. The DP World Tour is, the PGA Tour is. Aramco, which is a Dubai-based company, sponsors a full leg of the LPGA Tour, which, by the way, is coming back to Long Island next summer. I'll probably be there. And guess what? You want to know how they promote the LPGA? They don't put Lexi Thompson in a PGA Tour event. They make the tickets free. They'll pay you to go. That's how you grow eyeballs.
Well, I also think it's
for the LPGA Tour.
I also think that just kind of screams desperation for views.
No, but well, obviously, look, the LPGA Tour does not garner nearly as much attention, but LIV Golf is making tickets more affordable too. They give you pricing options that you can go. I could have went to the Trump Bedminster event for $25. Meanwhile, it would cost me $85 to even get on the grounds for the Honda Classic.
And I'm saying today, like me personally, as somebody who's extremely casual with golf, like knows guys' names and stuff like that, today was the most locked in I've been on golf in a long time. Just seeing the trades, the banter, and then everything with Jon Rahm finally coming to fruition. Like, I was like, holy shit, this is fun.
Today's news cycle literally put me in a cold sweat the whole day because I was like, what's coming next? Like, typically you have like one or two stories, right? We got Jon Rahm, the PIF's $1 billion portfolio that was going to get dumped, the chaos on tour, the idea that Jay Monahan has completely lost the tour and Patrick Cantlay is trying to take control. The players are totally divided. We've gotten literally 7 or 8 stories.
And a LIV Golf trade.
And on top, LIV Golf trades. And then on top of that, the idea that now LIV's going to give minority stake to Callaway, if pending their acceptance of it. But why wouldn't you do that? And then on top of that, now there's still a mystery shrouding all this. There are 3 players to fill Jon Rahm's new team. The biggest tweet right now is, what are you going to name the team? Which, by the way, if it isn't Los Toros for the Bulls, fucked up.
It's gotta be such a, and that logo is going to be fucking sweet.
It's going to look so good. It's going to look so good. But, like, we now have this shroud of mystery of we need three spots to fill. You know Rahm's probably recruiting some of his friends, who particularly his 2 favorite playing partners over the last 4 years have been Tony Finau and Hideki Matsuyama. 2 guys who are also, might I add, minorities when you really kind of break it down. Granted, Finau's a little less being he's Samoan, but still falls minority. Still falls under Asian Pacific minority. 2 guys who can make a big dent. Hideki Matsuyama is arguably the most accomplished Japanese golfer of all time.
And you want to talk about 2 guys who the casual golf fan knows their names? And then you're putting them on a team where the casual fan certainly knows the leader of the pack's name.
Possibly even Xander Schauffele, another guy who everyone knows.
If that's a team, I've got a squad that I'm rooting for.
Yeah, 100%. I am, well, first of all, based on my LIV team selector, I'm a Cleeks fan, which, by the way, fuck that. The worst team name ever and the worst band of brothers ever. When Richard Bland is your best player, we got a problem.
Yeah, get out of here.
The one thing I'll critique Liv about though is that the trade with Taylor Gooch and even the Harold Varner trade, the Range Goats basically got rid of basically scrapped their team. They got Matt Wolf and Peter Uihlein and gave away
Uihlein.
Gooch.
What are you Jesus fucking Christ! He's been around forever. Say his name right. It's Uihlein.
Sorry,
Ben just did the invisible. What the fuck is wrong with you?
Uihlein.
Oh, give me a fucking break. Shut up. We
No,
make
I'm not giving you a break.
We make mistakes.
Right.
We make mistakes, Benjamin. This
is why every league, whether it's high school, college, or pro, should have a database where the player pronounces their name available to the media.
Ben, can you spell Bezadenhout?
No, I was the third person to be ousted in my third grade spelling bee.
You sound like my fiance who's dyslexic. I ask her, how do you spell broccoli? And she gets mad at me whenever I ask. Or banquet. She can't do banquet.
I know how to spell broccoli.
I would hope you do.
Yeah, I do.
How do you do it?
BROCCOLLI. Was there one L?
It's one L.
Fuck.
You're not muted for 10 seconds. I am Tony Reale, and this is Around the Horn. So yeah,
I mean,
I haven't really said much the past 10 minutes anyway, because
who do you think on top of like Tony Finau and Hideki could be potential like guys that jump next?
Well, are you asking me or Steve?
Just in general, like general question.
Let me pull up the OWGR because this is kind of my metric at this point.
Because like Hideki was rumored, like you said, 6 months ago and had an offer on the table. And now that like his boy is there, and
so the names that were floated earlier today, and I'll find the account who did it. I'm pretty sure it was Nuclear Golf because they're the like one account that I follow and have like notifications turned on. Was I believe the names that were floated were I gotta find it here because it's close. So I believe it was like 3 of Rahm's better friends that are all like prominent on tour that very well could jump his way. They mentioned Finau, Brian Harman, and Wyndham Clark. Which again, 2 past major champions, and Tony Finau, who's a stud. I think those names most certainly make a lot of sense. I think if you look at some other names, I don't like. No one in the top 10, I think, is going to go with the exception of Xander Schauffele if he does, and of course Brian Harman and Wyndham Clark with names floating around. There was rumors about Jason Day that was squashed earlier today. I think Sam Burns would consider it. I think, yeah, I don't think a lot of guys in that top 30, 35 range would really consider it, just because they have such a foothold in everything PGA Tour related, and I don't think they would demand the kind of money that Jon Rahm got. But like Tyrrell Hatton, maybe. I don't see a whole lot of
along with Jason Day is Adrian Meronk.
Okay, so again, not nearly as big a name, but top 50 player in the world. I think he
was on the Ryder Cup.
Yeah, exactly. But made the Ryder Cup. Like there are names that make sense. I think you're going to get more of those guys in the back 50 that would jump, and predominantly probably like older guys. But like, take a Billy Horschel, for example. I don't think he'd go, but that's the kind of player that I think would end up trying to jump ship and try and get their money. They're still a brand name to an nth degree. They certainly aren't as big as, say, Adam Scott, but actually even Adam Scott's a name that was floated around earlier. Harris English, a name who's kind of fallen off in recent years due to injury, could also very well jump. But I would say the most prominent names that would go, in my opinion, would be Sam Burns. I think Tyrrell Hatton would make sense. Maybe Brian Harman, and Xander Schauffele is the ultimate.
Man, imagine Megacore on the LIV Tour. Mega Golf Club.
That would be a mega challenge for a lot of these teams to have to battle against.
Boys, not to cut you off, I gotta go to bed because I have PT tomorrow at 6:45.
I think we should all bounce off, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. This was a very successful discussion. We basically made a whole podcast episode out of this, in essence.
Let us know in the YouTube comment section too if you want more getting the whole radio.
Yeah, definitely would love to do more of this live chatter. Definitely want to get more involved in this, especially if this wasn't happening during my work hours. I would have literally gone to the bathroom and had done a emergency presser. Ben,
I want to do the outro.
Ben did a great job on the outro this past week, and I was shook by it.
I do want to say shout out to my boy Michael J, who painted the system painting behind me and is the owner and founder of Bones Golf Club. He was watching pretty much the entire show, so shout out to him.
Oh, shout out to him.
Thank you, man. Appreciate that.
Honestly, dude, the Bones apparel line, the hat that I got, top-notch quality, but also like I love the scripted logo. I like, and also the logo that came on the hat, like the attachment, was so cool. I still have it. That, like, if I can get a shirt of just that logo.
Oh, there's more coming. Don't you worry.
Oh, I'm hyped for it. Ben, take us away.
Everyone, thank you so much for tuning in and listening to this live edition of the Get in the Hole podcast featuring your three favorite co-hosts, Stephen McAvoy, Ben Pirro, and Kyle Bennett, the man, the myth, the legend, the best boss ever. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Leave us comments. We'll respond to them for sure, 100%. Let us know what you like, what you don't like. Please follow us on all our socials, KB, Steve's, mine. And also, please follow Underground Sports on Twitter and Instagram, and the Get in the Hole podcast also on Twitter and Instagram. And we'll see you guys Monday.
Don't subscribe. Don't follow my Twitter. It's hacked.
Oh, yeah, Stevens is still hacked, you fucking lazy
DM
bum.
Steve on Instagram to make a new Twitter.
Yeah, it's about time.
Coming soon. Watch out.